we're all supposed to be dead because of net neutrality. So I don't know why we're all still here. Let's go to our next guest on this. He's an expert on it, and he has graciously given us a get out of jail free card. Brendan Carr, who's a commissioner with the Federal Communications Commission, previously general counsel for the FCC. And of course, we have the passage of this plan for the administration now. It's basically an internet takeover. Brendan Carr, first off, it's very good to see you. You've talked about this quite a bit, but I mean, I joke about it, but I mean, really all of the hyperbole that was sold about net neutrality, we didn't die. We were fine without it. Now it's being reinstated. And talk to us about this, because this is a huge power grab from the administration. It's the government putting its hands on the scale, essentially.
Yeah, good to be with you. Look, this is a power grab, pure and simple. And it's a story about two things. It's about 20 years and it's about 117 seconds. For 20 years, there's bipartisan consensus, Republicans and Democrats alike, that the government should keep its hands off the internet and it should thrive by the statute, unfettered by federal regulation. 20 years. All of that changed in 117 seconds when President Obama cut a YouTube video demanding that his then FCC chairman flip on this issue back in 2014. And since then, it's just been a matter of religion for the left. Whenever there's a president of their party, they go back to government control. And to your point, we were told, end of the internet as we know it. Speeds are up, prices are down. We're connecting right here without net neutrality being back, something we couldn't have done back in 2014. So it's just all about government control.
Yeah, they keep saying that, oh, it's not about the government regulating prices, but I don't know how else you could say that it isn't. I mean, you're literally regulating the price of what broadband providers are allowed to charge consumers and high volume customers. I mean, it is the exact definition of regulating price.
Yeah, it's full on regulation. Title II was designed by the Roosevelt administration to regulate the Ma Bell copper line telephone monopoly. It's complete regulation. And even if they don't do rate regulation here, we've already seized that authority. Remember last year, there was this digital equity order for the internet where we do expressly bring pricing into the FCC's jurisdiction, so that whether they do it here or there, the point is they have that power. And there's just no reason for it. They tell us, well, we need this for internet privacy. No, you don't. The Federal Trade Commission already has full privacy regulations. They say, well, we need it for national security. We don't need it for national security. We don't even have expertise in that area that Title II would help us get across the finish line. So the goalposts keep moving. They can't say end of the internet anymore because people aren't going to buy it this time. But now they say cybersecurity and national security. But yeah, it's just about getting the government more power.
I love the little name that they give it to as a way to sort of bait people into thinking it's very benign. Net neutrality. Oh, it sounds so, it sounds so innocuous. It's neutral. It's part of the name of it, but it does anything but that. I know that there's going to be challenges to this. Are you going to be one of the commissioners testifying before the House Energy and Commerce Telecom Subcommittee? That's, I think, coming up on May 7th.
I'll be up there. Yep, we'll be up there.
And so this, how can this be repealed? Is this going to be taken act of Congress? Can it be challenged, or is it just kind of done deal?
Yeah, this will ultimately get overturned. So it's going to go to court, the various providers that are regulated by it. And whether it's the appellate court or the Supreme Court, this is going to get overturned. These courts have been increasingly skeptical of agency overreach, particularly now that we have Justice Kavanaugh and others up on the Supreme Court. He's the author of something called the Major Questions Doctrine, which is to say, look, we shouldn't assume that an agency, unelected like the FCC, has power that Congress, where the Constitution puts legislative power, just inadvertently gave us power and no one really knew about it. But we just looked at the 1996 Telecom Act, and all of a sudden we found power almost 30 years later that lets us regulate the internet. So because courts are more skeptical of these claims, I'm very confident this is going to get overturned. In fact, President Obama's former top lawyers at DOJ filed in our proceeding and said, look, we love net neutrality, but this thing is dead on arrival in the courts. So that's most directly where this will end up.
Thank heavens. I'm happy for that. The other issue that you're joining us to discuss about talking with FCC's Brendan Carr is the TikTok issue, the forced sale. Well, unless TikTok or ByteDance appeal this, which I think that they are expected to do. I can't imagine. I would just be actually shocked if this works in favor of them selling it. Because I don't see that happening. I wanted to get your response to that being passed and what you expect ByteDance or CCP or TikTok, it's all the same thing, what you expect them to do.
Yeah, look, the CCP made a bet and they thought that they could use TikTok to spy on Americans, to take our data back to members of the CCP in Beijing, and that the US wouldn't have the capacity or resolve to do something. And so I'm really glad that we did. What TikTok and their parent are saying now is they're going to go to court. That's the first step. They're going to try to challenge the law. They're not going to win, in my view. And then to your point, what do? Well, right now they're saying they're not going to sell it, that they would rather shut it down in the US than sell it, which is funny because they unleashed their millions of followers into Congress and use them as human shields to try to block this bill, saying we care about our users. And now they're saying, actually, we care about the CCP more than those users. So we're going to leave you high and dry if it comes down to it. But there's still a lot to play out. Maybe that's posturing. We'll see.
Yeah, and for the people who don't understand how important this is, because I mean, these are actual conservatives that have told me, well, I understand, if it's a government official, but they don't really have anything to get on me. I mean, there's nothing that they would find valuable with my information, but that's not the point, is it? Because I feel as though all of this information is designed to inform. Maybe I'm not trying to be tinfoil hat wearing, but to me, it sounds like they're trying to just organize this giant psyop operation. Doesn't matter if you're not a government official. Are you on Facebook? Are you on social media? Do you take part in politics? Then you're susceptible to the information that they would take, weaponize, and use against you to drive division. I mean, that's a great psychological warfare tactic that they seem to be familiar with, and yet too many people here are unaware of.
Yeah, it's a couple of things. It's espionage, which is surveillance, all this data going back. It's foreign influence. And as you pointed out, once they have this detailed data, location, face prints, search and browsing keystrokes on 170 million Americans, imagine what they can do with that data. For one, they can train their own AI, which is sort of the next frontier of this. But they also have such a granular, clear picture of America that they can use it for all sorts of nefarious purposes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Well, we're going to be watching how all of this unfolds. I mean, we're in such a weird time right now. I keep talking about that Mission Impossible, the latest Mission Impossible film, which has the weaponized AI, and they're in the middle of a conflict, and it's all AI driven. Not to give any of it away, but I kind of feel like we're past the cusp of that. But too few people in government are really aware of it. One last quick thing. What do people need to be looking out for as these two issues separately, the TikTok issue and then, of course, net neutrality go forward? What should just average everyday Americans be looking for as this proceeds?
Yeah, continue to weigh in because these are sort of isolated decisions, you could say. But if you step back again, it's all part of a broader plan by the Biden administration, in my view, just keep exercising more and more control over the internet. So we have to stay very, very vigilant and not just look at these each as sort of isolated pinpricks. The whole mosaic here is concerning. I think we got to try to turn the tide on that, and that starts in the courts.
Yeah, absolutely. Brendan Carr with the FCC. Always so good to see you. Thank you for weighing in on this and giving us the latest. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.